Tomato. Two boys were chosen at birth by the world to settle one matter once and for all: the existence of God. They were bred and prepared for their important meeting, and when they turned of age, they were placed into a house together for their discussion to begin. Neither of them were allowed to leave the house premises until the matter had been settled. 1 month passed, then 1 year, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And before anyone knew it, it was 90 years. 90 years passed, and the boys, now old men with white hair, had not yet left the house. Having waited for so long, the people of the world grew restless. They began to fear that the old men might reach their last breaths without having ever shared their resolution. So they began to knock on the house door, demanding that the scholars reveal the answer to the single most important question: the existence of God. After a series of failed knocks, the people broke down the front door only to find the two men at each other's throats, loudly screaming. The people stopped them and demanded to hear the resolution of their prolonged quest. "Thank you for bringing us back on track," said the first scholar. "To tell you the truth, what we have decided to focus on is something that urgently came up after our first meal together 80 years ago." "What is that?" the people anxiously asked. "Maybe that holds the answer to the quest." And the second scholar continued, "Well, in our first meal together, we shared a tomato salad. And after agreeing on how delicious the tomatoes were, I proudly said that those tomatoes came from my farm. And he said, no, they came from my farm. And that, of course, is not truth, so we began this argument and have not been able to settle it yet." The people gasped, for how could they have spent all this valuable time discussing something so silly? The two scholars looked around at the people. "Perhaps you all can help us resolve this once and for all. Which farm did the tomatoes come from?" People began murmuring at first, but very quickly everyone was on top of each other, screaming and punching and even killing. The two men unfortunately died before they were ever able to resolve the quest on the existence of God, but their legacy continues. It is said that the war over the tomato has been going on for hundreds of years, and that no one can agree on whose tomatoes those really belong to. No one really knows why they're fighting about tomatoes anymore, but it seems important enough that their ancestors fought for it to continue the effort. Otherwise, all those years would have been wasted for nothing. What seems to be left out of the conversation, interestingly, is that the two boys were brothers, separated at birth, and that the tomatoes belonged to neither of them. It seems that the tomatoes actually belonged to the mother, and that the mother has something to do with that whole question of the existence of God, which they haven't gotten to yet. So until then, we will continue to observe the tomato war, waiting for a resolution so that we can finally get to the important question on the existence of God. Tomato.